Close your eyes and take a slow breath. What would happen if an ancient Egyptian king decided to defy all the gods? Tonight, I want you to walk with me into that question. You are lying in the dark, perhaps in a small room where the city has not yet slept. It may be New York. It may be Los Angeles. It may be anywhere. I invite you to leave a comment with your time zone so I know where you are listening from. And if this journey touches you, please like, please subscribe, so we may meet again on other long nights. Now, imagine. The clock in your room still ticks steadily. Yet inside your mind, you are drifting back more than 3,000 years. There is no electric light. There is no sound of traffic. Only the desert wind and the warmth of the day still clinging to the sand. You stand there as an invisible witness. No one sees you, but you see everything. Before you stretches the Nile, a green ribbon flowing across golden land. On its banks rise reeds, and beyond them the silhouettes of towering temples. The sun climbs, red and glowing, painting every stone block with fire. You hear the faint dip of oars. You smell damp earth mixed with the resin of trees. And on the breeze, you catch the sound of prayer. They are calling to Amun, the great god of Thebes. They whisper their hopes, certain that the gods will protect the kingdom. But something different is coming. A young prince has just become Pharaoh. His name is Amenhotep. He is not only a ruler. In his deep eyes you sense a question no courtier dares to speak. Are the old gods truly the only ones to be worshipped? You follow the crowd into Thebes. The streets are full. Incense rises. Drums echo. But at the throne there is a strange silence. The young king lifts his gaze to the sun. Not to Amun, not to Osiris, not to Isis. He looks only to Aten, the shining disk above the sky. Notice how you feel in your chest. It is like hearing a secret you were never meant to know. Pharaoh Akhenaten is beginning a path no one before him dared. He chooses to leave behind a tradition older than memory. He rejects the immense power of the priests. He builds a new faith, a faith that Aten, the light of the sun, is the single source of all life. You are inside the palace now, where rays pour down through tall windows. On the ceiling spread painted wings. On the walls, carved beings of sunlight end in tiny...
It is the choice that may shape the fate of a nation. Tonight you will witness all of it. You will follow Akhenaten as he steps out of the shadow of Amun. You will watch a new city rise in the desert. You will hear the hymns to Aten swell in the courtyards. You will feel the cracks begin to spread, and the silence of history when he is gone. For now, let your body sink deeper into calm. Let the light of Aten open in your mind, and let us step together, gently, into the palace of Amarna, where the story begins. Chapter 1. Sunrise on the Nile. You stand beside the Nile as the first light of dawn rises. The wide surface of the river reflects a fragile band of light, shifting from purple to pink, then glowing into gold. The world before you feels both quiet and full of life, and it is in this very setting that Amenhotep, the young prince who would one day become Akhenaten, was born. You listen closely. You hear the wind moving through fields of barley, the sound of oxen pulling the plow. Farmers are beginning their day of labor. They wear simple linen loincloths, their backs sun-browned, their feet pressing into soft mud as they scatter seed. Nearby, women carry jars of water, baskets of flatbread, and sometimes sing softly to ease their work. Children run barefoot along the riverbank, chasing flocks of wild ducks. A few boys hold small nets, hoping to catch Nile perch, fish used both for meals and for offerings. You notice the smell of cooking fires rising from mud brick huts. People roast barley, bake bread, and brew light beer to prepare a simple breakfast strong enough to sustain the day. The Nile is the rhythm of life. When the flood waters rise each year, people celebrate great festivals, giving thanks to the gods for the rich black silt. When the water recedes, they till the land, plant wheat, barley, beans, and flax for weaving cloth. The cycle repeats, like music played through endless generations. In the early morning, you also hear craftsmen in a nearby village. Some carve wood to build small boats. Others cut stone, preparing tombs for officials in the Valley of the Nobles. Every person has a place in society, from farmer to artisan, soldier, scribe, and priest. You lift your gaze, and far away stands Thebes, the religious capital of Egypt. The colossal columns of Karnak and Luxor tower skyward, carved with images of gods and the victories of pharaohs. Here, the priesthood of Amun holds nearly absolute power. They control land, treasure, temples, and the faith of the people. Ordinary men and women will witness the immense power of the priesthood and quietly begin to wonder if there might be another truth beyond what is taught. You picture the palace scene. Great halls paved with stone, gardens filled with trees, pools of lotus blossoms, walls painted in bright colors. The royal family lives in splendor. Meals include beef, roasted duck, grilled fish, red wine. Princesses paint their faces with white powder, eyes lined in long strokes of green malachite. Gold and gems sparkle on wrists and ankles. The young prince is cared for by nurses and servants. He grows up surrounded by the music of harps, the soft lull of songs, and the glow of sunlight streaming through windows. From his earliest days, he knows the sight of officials bowing, the smell of incense in temples, the endless rituals he must attend. Yet in his eyes you sense something different. It is not just a child's curiosity. It is a gaze lifted toward the sun itself, toward the light pouring between stone columns, as though he is searching for a source of truth beyond Amun. Egypt at this time stands at its height. Borders stretch from Nubia in the south to the Levant in the north. Ships bring gold, incense, ivory, rare timber to docks along the Nile. Soldiers march, scribes record, merchants trade. People believe this strength endures through the blessing of Amun and the authority of Pharaoh. But such wealth has also made the priesthood a power difficult to contain. They own vast estates, maintain private armies, influence even the throne. And one day, the young prince growing in the palace will refuse to accept it. You feel the peace of the morning, but also hear the faint echo of changes to come. It is as if this sunrise on the Nile not only begins a new day, but also announces a new age for Egypt. Let your mind hold this scene. Farmers laboring in the fields, ships loaded with goods along the river, the grand temples of Amun standing proud, and inside the radiant palace, a small boy growing, preparing to challenge everything that has endured for 1,000 years. You are the invisible witness to this moment in time, and from this sunrise on the Nile, you will walk beside Akhenaten, the one who will turn away from the old gods and shape a new faith. Chapter 2. Prince Amenhotep IV. You are standing in the royal garden, where the morning light slips through lotus blossoms and glimmers across a still pond. You see a small prince seated on a low chair, holding a painted wooden toy. Tiny animals carved in the shape of light. Each day, he is led with his family into the great temples to make offerings. The sight of hundreds of worshippers kneeling, arms lifted toward the statue of Amun, etches itself into his memory. You're inside Karnak Temple. Shafts of sunlight fall through high stone gaps above. Smoke hangs in the air. Long horns sound. Priests in spotless linen robes walk in solemn lines, carrying cups of wine, bread, and meat for sacrifice. They chant in an ancient tongue, calling the names of the gods, asking for protection and harvests. The young prince stands beside his father, Pharaoh Amenhotep III, eyes raised toward the towering figure of Amun, the supreme god believed to be father of pharaohs. Prayers echo through the hall. You see the boy silent, not only from awe but also from quiet doubt. In those eyes is a question, as if he wonders whether these endless rituals truly reach the divine, or are only repeated gestures. Inside the palace, Amenhotep has many sisters and royal princesses trained to become symbols of beauty and influence. But his childhood is most closely bound to the care of his mother, Queen T, one of the most powerful women in Egyptian history. You see T sitting with her son in the garden, her gentle hands resting on his shoulders. She is not only queen but also a companion of spirit, planting in him questions beyond tradition. She was not born royal, but with intelligence and will, she became the great king's chief wife, honored by all the court. From her, Amenhotep learns to see the world with different eyes. You notice his play is unlike that of his brothers. Instead of mock hunts or drills with bows, he spends hours watching the sunset, staring at the red light spreading across the sky. He listens to musicians plucking harps, the soft tones pulling him into quiet thought, as if drifting in meditation. Tutors teach him hieroglyphs, numbers to measure fields, calendars to mark the flood. Yet the lessons of signs and figures seem less compelling than his own study of the heavens, watching how light changes hour by hour. In this boy, a quiet faith is stirring, still without words, but one day strong enough to transform an empire. As son of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and Queen T, he carries the destiny of succession. From birth, he is seen as divine. Every step, every word is observed and remembered. At grand ceremonies, the boy is placed beside the throne so the people may see him. When thousands bow and cry out, "Long live Pharaoh!" their eyes fall also on the small child, already marked to be king. It is both glory and invisible weight pressing on his young shoulders. For many princes, they are simply the path laid before them. But for Amenhotep, each repeated act makes him feel the circle turning without end. You see him return from the temple to sit alone beside the palace lotus pool. Sunset glows across the water. He stares at the reflection of the sun, his gaze long and still, as if holding a thought too great for words. Inside him, a question begins to form. Perhaps it is the sun itself, not the silent statues, that is the true source of life. You breathe slower, letting that thought settle. From these quiet days of childhood in Thebes, a seed is planted. That seed will grow into a new faith and a rebellion both silent and powerful, one of the most daring in all of ancient Egypt. Chapter 3. The Golden Throne. You are standing in the great hall of the palace at Thebes, towering stone columns reaching upward as if to touch the sky, heavy incense curling through the air, the red glow of hundreds of torches flickering against carved walls. Today is unlike any other. It is the day that the young prince becomes Pharaoh, the moment when a single man is placed between heaven and earth, carrying the fate of millions. You hear the horns blare, drums pound like the heartbeat of the kingdom. Priests in pure white robes walk in solemn lines, their hands raising lotus crowns and golden cups of wine. They move slowly, each step echoing the rhythm of centuries, and all eyes turn to the gilded throne at the far end of the hall, where Amenhotep IV sits, youthful, yet already marked by gravity. Upon his head rests the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, gleaming in the firelight. More than a symbol of power, it is the seal of unity, the burden of ruling both lands. When the crown is lowered fully onto his head, the hall falls still, and then erupts as one with a roar, voices shouting, "Long live Pharaoh!" surging like a wave that rolls beyond the walls and into the streets. You see officials bow to the floor, soldiers raise their weapons high, common people pressing hands together in prayer. Each one places hope upon the young king, that he will keep Egypt strong, protect the harvest, and force enemies to kneel. To them he is not only a man, but the living image of the divine, the son of the sun god upon the throne. Yet when you look into the eyes of Amenhotep IV, you see something different. He wears the royal cloak, the heavy golden chains around his neck, but his gaze is not fixed on the carved statues of gods standing around him. His eyes lift toward the ceiling, to the single beam of sunlight that cuts through the high stone gap and lays a glowing path across the floor. He stares into, though his hands tremble slightly. You can feel the invisible weight settle upon his shoulders, not just the weight of power, but the expectation of ancestors, gods, and countless lives watching him. Outside the square is crowded. Drums and horns announce the rise of a new ruler. People shout, cast flowers, offer gifts. Under the blazing midday sun, the golden throne is carried out so all may see. Tens of thousands kneel at once, moving like waves under the light. Amenhotep raises his hand in blessing, and in that instant, he is Pharaoh. But deep within you sense his heart is not entirely bound to these ancient forms. He is not only the son who inherits his father's throne, but also a mind touched by a new belief. That belief remains unspoken, yet it glows inside him like an ember beneath ash. You feel the pull of two worlds upon him. One is glory, the roar of the crowd, the approval of priests and people, the embrace of tradition. The other is the shaft of sunlight, Aten, shining above, calling him beyond these endless rituals. Between them he must wear the mask of Pharaoh, yet within he asks if this power truly comes from Amun or from the sun itself now bathing his face. The final horns sound, prayers fade, the young king rises, stepping slowly, firmly, across the stone floor. With every step, courtiers bow low. With every step he feels the gravity of crown, throne, and history pressing against his back. Outside, the sky is a brilliant blue, the Nile shimmering with light. At this moment, a new age begins. The people rejoice, certain that the gods have blessed them with a mighty ruler. But you, the unseen witness, know that in the eyes of Pharaoh, Amenhotep IV, there is another fire. Not the cold gaze of idols, but the living blaze of the sun, Aten, pouring down over the land. Hold this moment in your memory, for from this glorious coronation, from the thunder of voices and the shimmer of gold, will rise a challenge greater than any Egypt has known. Amenhotep IV is Pharaoh now, and his journey to defy the gods has only just begun. Chapter 4. The Power of Amun. You are standing in the heart of Thebes, the religious capital of Egypt, where every road seems to lead toward the grand temples of Amun. The city feels like a living body, and its beating heart is the temple of Karnak, where for centuries kings, priests, and ordinary people have bowed their heads in prayer. The massive gates rise higher than any human structure of their age, carved with endless lines of hieroglyphs, praising the might of Amun and the victories of Pharaoh. Gold and gemstones shining on their necks. They are not poor men, pleading for mercy. They are guardians of vast estates, of granaries, of soldiers sworn to the temple itself. When they enter the great halls, officials bow. Commoners press their heads to the ground, for everyone knows their words can shape the fate of villages, provinces, even the throne. You hear whispers among the people outside the gates. They say the wealth inside the temple of Amun exceeds even that of Pharaoh. They say, when someone needs grain, they come to the temple. When they seek protection, they come to the temple. When they want children or marriages blessed, they come to the temple. It is not only a place of prayer, but the center of economy, politics, and spirit. In the hands of the priesthood, Amun is both divine and practical, guardian of harvests, war, and kingship itself. Imagine the envoys arriving from distant lands, bringing tribute to Thebes. Gold from Nubia, cedar wood from Lebanon, incense from the east, boxes carried by long lines of servants, filled with jewels, fine linen, and slaves. Each great festival becomes a parade of wealth. You see the golden statue of Amun lifted high, his eyes inlaid with precious stones, seeming to gaze upon the multitude. Drums beat, horns ring. Chants echo so strongly it feels as though the sound could consume the soul. Tens of thousands fall prostrate, trembling hands raised, convinced the God himself is watching. Even you, the unseen witness, feel the force of it, as though the entire city is bound in the invisible embrace of one God. Yet in the eyes of the priests there is something more than faith. It is pride. The pride of those who know they wield not only divine power, but political might. Their decisions can outlast kings. Pharaohs may rise and fall, but the temple of Amun endures, and the priesthood remains. You hear whispers in the royal court. Some officials murmur that the priests of Amun are growing stronger than the throne itself. Others fear that if nothing changes, Pharaoh will become little more than a shadow. These whispers reach the ears of those willing to think differently. And now a young Pharaoh, once a boy who sat under the sunlight, wondering about endless rituals, sees the truth more clearly than anyone. Amenhotep IV sits upon his throne, yet the shadow of Amun still stretches across his palace. He knows that to rule Egypt truly,
he must not only command armies and people, he must face the invisible power gripping the soul of his nation. In his eyes there is a different spark, a light that does not belong to Amun, a choice that will change history forever. Chapter 5. The Light of Aten. You stand once again in Thebes at the break of day, the sky unfolding in pale colors as the sun begins to rise over fields of barley, over mud brick houses, over the towering walls of Karnak. But this morning, you do not see the sun as you have always seen it. You see Aten. Aten is not shaped like a man, not carved with face or form, not hidden in dark chambers behind walls of stone. Aten is the radiant sun disk itself, spreading beams of light across the world, each ray ending in a tiny hand reaching downward, giving life to everything it touches. You stand still, and it feels as though the whole world brightens at once. The light of Aten pours down without judgment, upon temples and huts alike, upon pharaoh and farmer, the same golden fire covering all. You raise your hand, feeling warmth settle on your skin. It is not cold like the statues of stone, not distant like the chants of priests. It is here, immediate, touching you, real. In this moment, you understand why Pharaoh Amenhotep IV lifts his eyes to Aten. For while Amun and the old gods have been veiled by the power of priests, Aten has always been present, rising each morning, no one able to withhold it, no one able to claim it alone. The sun rises and every creature breathes, every stalk grows, every heart beats by its light. You see Pharaoh step outside his palace in the early morning. He pauses and lifts his gaze toward the climbing disk. It is not chance that his heart stirs at this sight. From childhood, he has known the weight of endless ceremonies to Amun, the bowed heads, the prayers echoing in the shadows. But in Aten's light, he feels something different, a connection without barrier, without interpreter, a direct breath of life. You imagine yourself following him into a new kind of temple, not enclosed, not roofed, but open beneath the sky. Here worshippers do not stand in darkness, waiting for a hidden statue to appear. Here they stand in the full blaze of morning, heads lifted, arms raised, faces open to the sun. You walk through the wide gate. The air is fresh, the light abundant. Around you, hundreds lift their eyes upward. Mothers with children, farmers with rough hands, children laughing as beams dance across the ground. Music rises, softer than the solemn blasts of Amun's horns. Harps sing, drums beat gently, voices blend in hymns of gratitude. They do not beg, they do not play. They lift their heads, feel the touch of sun on skin, and know they are heard. And you too feel it. A warmth that seems to move not only across your body, but into your chest, into your very breath. You look around this temple of light. There are no towering statues of stone, no shadowed halls where only priests may enter. All is open. All is clear. Aten does not hide. Aten shines. Yet in that brilliance you sense the rising tension. For every beam that falls from Aten is a quiet challenge to the priests of Amun. If Aten covers all, what need is there for gates and chambers and endless rites? If Aten is visible to every man, what power remains for those who once spoke in secret for the gods?
And you know, as Pharaoh knows, that conflict is coming. You see in his eyes a resolve forming. He will not only lift his gaze to Aten in solitude, he will make Aten the center of Egypt's faith. He dreams of building vast temples with no roofs, only open courtyards where the sun can pour freely, where every person may feel the same touch he feels each morning. You feel Aten's light on your own skin, warm and insistent, whispering a simple truth. Life is born from here. From this fire the plants grow, the animals feed, the people breathe. You understand why he chooses Aten. In a world weighed down by rituals and shadows, Aten is release, is clarity, is promise. Hold this vision now. Imagine yourself standing within Aten's court, your head raised, your eyes wide, your body washed in light. There is no distance, no veil, no secret chamber. There is only the sun, present for all. You are an unseen witness, but also for a moment you are a believer, tasting the faith that stirs the heart of Pharaoh. And you know this light will not only shine upon the temples, it will shine directly into his soul, guiding him onto a path of upheaval and trial. This is Aten, the sun made sacred, and from this moment forward, his rays will shape the destiny of Egypt. Chapter 6. The Uprising Against the Old Gods. You are standing in Thebes, where the towering walls of the Temple of Amun still cast long shadows across the square. Yet the air feels different now, charged with tension, a hidden current waiting to break loose. You hear whispers in the market stalls, murmurs in the narrow streets. To the priests of Amun, this is an insult, for every rite, every offering, every coin given to the temple has been the foundation of their power. Now, as the king strips away the rituals, they lose not only wealth, but the very essence of their authority. You hear the whispers in the great hall of government. Some say the king is reckless, too young to understand the danger. Others fear the old gods will take vengeance, that fields will wither, that enemies will strike. But Amenhotep does not falter. He believes the light of Aten is the true source of life. He orders new altars to be built in the squares, where the people can stand beneath the open sky and feel the sun upon their faces. You stand in one of the first ceremonies to Aten. There is no roof above, no stone statues looming, only space and light. The sun falls upon the crowd, illuminating every face turned upward. Voices rise in song, not in desperate pleading, but in gratitude. They give thanks for warmth, for crops, for breath itself. You see hesitation in their eyes, a mixture of wonder and fear. For generations they have bowed low before Amun, and now they are told to lift their gaze to the sun. Some feel liberated, some unsettled. Whispers spread quickly. Some say the pharaoh has gone too far, that he dares to replace Amun. Others admit they feel a strange closeness in Aten's light, as though life itself answers them without priests in between. You move among the crowd, hearing both awe and fear woven together. In the shadowed halls of Karnak, the priests gather in secret, their faces stern, their voices low. They know their power is slipping. If Aten becomes the center of worship, if the people believe they need only the sun, the temple of Amun will lose its hold on Egypt's soul. Plans are whispered, threats wrapped in courtesy. The struggle, has begun. You see the pharaoh alone in his palace chamber, sunlight streaming through the window across his face. He knows he is defying a tradition older than memory, yet within him the fire of Aten burns brighter than fear. He believes he has been chosen not only as king, but as the one to bring forth a new truth. You draw breath slowly, feeling the weight of the city around you. Between these ancient stones, beneath these towering columns, two forces now face each other. On one side, a young pharaoh, carried by faith in Aten, the sun that shines for all. On the other side, the priesthood of Amun, armed with wealth, tradition, and 1,000 years of worship. And you, the unseen witness, stand between them, feeling each heartbeat of a rebellion taking shape. No swords are drawn, no blood has fallen, yet the battle has already begun. It lives where the wind carries a dry, searing breath, and golden sand stretches endlessly toward the horizon. There are no towering walls of Karnak here, no heavy shadows of Thebes, only earth, sky, and the radiant light of Aten burning above. This is the place Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, now Akhenaten, has chosen to raise his new capital, Akhenaten, the horizon of Aten. You feel the rhythm of his dream, bold and fragile at once. He will leave Thebes, leave behind the shadow of Amun, and build a city where Aten is worshipped openly, not hidden, not veiled. You see him standing in the sand, eyes lifted toward the blazing disk, arms raised as though speaking directly to the god. In that light, he declares, "This shall be the center of a new age." Waves of workers arrive, farmers, stonecutters, builders, artisans. You walk among the sound of hammers striking stone, the scrape of sand being cleared, the shouts of men dragging limestone blocks under the burning sun. Calloused hands work without pause, laying the foundation of a city that will rise from dust into something the world has never seen. You step onto new roads, wide and straight, not twisted like the alleys of Thebes. They stretch like lines of light carved into the desert. On either side gleam fresh walls, whitewashed to reflect the sun, so bright the whole space glows. You press your palm to the wall and feel its heat, yet your heart feels lifted, as though Aten himself is embracing you. You wander into the great square where Aten's temple takes shape. It is unlike any temple you have known. No roof, no hidden sanctum, no stone idol cloaked in shadow. Everything is open. The sky itself is the roof, the sun itself the presence. Tall columns rise to hold broad altars where hundreds can gather together, their faces turned upward to receive light directly. Voices rise in song, not chants of mystery, but hymns of gratitude, simple and pure. You walk through streets where officials build new houses, wide homes with gardens and pools, green trees planted where once there was only sand. Water is carried from the Nile, life carved into the desert. Children run laughing in the courtyards, proof that Akhenaten is no dream alone, but a city taking breath. You pass through neighborhoods of workers and farmers, rows of mud brick houses, smoke curling from ovens, the smell of bread baking. Families gather after long days of labor, speaking of this strange new city, of Aten's light, of hopes and doubts. In their eyes you see belief rising, but also uncertainty. Can Aten a reminder that one God alone now rules over Egypt? You find yourself within one of the first great ceremonies to Aten in this new city. Thousands gather in the square, the sun blazing above. Pharaoh and Nefertiti stand at the center, arms raised, receiving the rays. No idols, no shadows, only the open air and the direct touch of light. The people sing together, voices blending with drums and harps, not begging, but thanking. Gratitude fills the square like a tide. Yet you feel unease beneath the joy. Every stone laid here, every house built, every open ritual is one more step away from tradition. The priests of Amun in Thebes look upon Akhenaten with anger. They see their power eroding, their 1,000-year faith threatened by this new light. Among the people, too, whispers spread. If Amun is abandoned, will Aten protect them? If the old gods fall silent, will Egypt remain Egypt? You climb a rise and look across the city taking form. The sunlight pours gold across rooftops, walls, streets. The city gleams like a vision placed upon the earth by Aten himself. Yet in the glow, you sense the storm hidden. For Akhenaten is not only a new capital, it is a declaration, a challenge, a break with the past. It is the pharaoh's vow to cast aside the old gods and lift up a faith no one has ever known. You breathe deeply, tasting both the brilliance and the fragility of this dream. You know you are walking through history, a witness to the moment when a city rises from sand to stand as a symbol of Aten's light, of new belief, and of the deep divisions soon to fall over Egypt. Chapter 8. Nefertiti, the mysterious companion. You are walking through the palace of the new city of Akhenaten. The light of Aten floods every space, glowing against whitewashed walls, pouring through tall open pillars. And in the center of that brilliance, you see her, Queen Nefertiti. She stands beside the pharaoh, not only as his wife, not only as queen, but as a radiant presence, a hidden fire, a force equal in strength walking with him along this daring path. You see her in the morning light, her face sculpted as though Aten himself had carved it, balanced features, long eyes rimmed in dark kohl, full lips that carry both allure and authority. Upon her head rests the tall crown, not only a symbol of her rank, but of beauty so perfect it seems eternal. She, unlike the queens of the past who stood in shadow, Nefertiti walks as his equal, her hands lifted with his to receive the light. On the carved reliefs of Akhenaten, Aten's rays stretch down not only to Pharaoh, but to Nefertiti as well. This has never been seen before. She is not a silent consort. She is half of the power. Among the people, whispers spread. They say no queen has ever held such a role. Some even claim Aten favors her more than Pharaoh. Others look upon her beauty and say it is proof that Aten has blessed her. She becomes the bridge, carrying the new faith from the throne into the hearts of the people. You remember one great festival. The sun blazes high, pouring fire into the square. Nefertiti walks forth with Pharaoh. In the golden light, her arms extend, her white linen gown flowing in the desert breeze. The crowd falls silent. In that instant, she is no longer just queen. She is as though the embodiment of Aten on earth, a woman, yet more than woman, radiant and unearthly. In the quiet nights of the palace, you see her seated beside Pharaoh. No ritual, no ceremony, only the two in low conversation. Her voice is calm, gentle, yet firm. She tells him that Aten is truth, that he must not yield to the shadows of Amun. She is the anchor of his faith, the voice that steadies him when doubt arises. You feel her presence in every step of Akhenaten's growth. When the straight streets are laid, when temples open to the sky, her figure is there, reminding all that the new faith belongs not to the king alone, but to queen and king together. On walls, you see them carved side by side, Aten's rays ending in hands that offer the ankh of life, not just to Pharaoh, but to Nefertiti. The message is clear. Power is shared. The blessing is doubled. Under the golden light, you realize Nefertiti is not ornament, but essence, not an echo, but the second voice of this revolution. Her beauty strengthens belief. Her presence dissolves doubt. Her counsel hardens Pharaoh's resolve. Breathe slowly and hold this vision in your mind. Nefertiti, the woman of timeless beauty, the mysterious companion of Pharaoh, the queen who stood beneath Aten's light, not as shadow, but as soul of a new age. Without her, the light of Aten might have remained only a dream. With her, it becomes a living flame, burning across the city, across Egypt, across history itself. Chapter 9. Art and Transformation. You are standing inside a sunlit chamber of Akhenaten, and before your eyes stretch walls covered in carvings unlike. You see Pharaoh Akhenaten himself, not as a mighty conqueror, but with a long, narrow face, full lips, a rounded belly, chest broad and curved, a form both male and female. His hands are lifted not in war, but in devotion, reaching upward to Aten. You pause before a great relief of the royal family. It is startling, for in all Egypt's long tradition, pharaohs were shown as divine and distant. Yet here Akhenaten sits with Queen Nefertiti and their daughters beneath Aten's rays. The sun's beams stretch downward, each ending in a hand that holds the symbol of life, offering it to the king, the queen, and even their children. You look closely, and you see something never before imagined. The royal family not as untouchable deities, but as people, laughing, embracing, living in the light. Around you, whispers of the people echo. Some marvel at the boldness, some murmur uneasily. For Pharaoh is no longer apart, no longer aloof. He holds his daughters, sits beside his queen, smiles within the radiance of Aten. For some this is unsettling, for others it is comforting, for the God who shines upon Pharaoh shines also upon them. You move to a bust of Nefertiti, her face impossibly refined, her neck long and elegant, her eyes alive as though she might meet your gaze. Her beauty is not merely to glorify a queen, but to embody the presence of one illuminated by Aten. You feel the lifelike quality, the suggestion that she might breathe, might speak. The art of Amarna is more than style. It is spirit. It does not glorify war. It does not carve Pharaoh as conqueror. It celebrates life, light, and the bond between human and God. You notice how reliefs show farmers under the sun, artisans at work, flowers opening, birds in flight. No longer endless victories and battles, but the rhythms of daily existence beneath the living light. You let your eyes linger, and then close, then open again. The carvings almost move. The rays of Aten fall, the tiny hands stretch downward, the royal children laugh in their parents' arms. It feels as though you are there, a witness in the room, the stone breathing with warmth. Around you, the voices of the people rise.
Some call the figures strange, distorted, unworthy of a king. Others insist they are real, that for the first time Pharaoh is seen as man and father, not just as God. In their division, you hear the price of change. Like Aten himself, the art of Amarna is brilliant, yet controversial, beautiful, yet unsettling. A light that comforts and blinds at once. Slowly, you step away, sunlight still burning across the walls.
Chapter 10. Faith and Isolation. You are standing inside a quiet chamber of the palace at Akhenaten. The room is wide, yet the light of Aten falls through the high windows in a narrow band, revealing scrolls and tablets stacked upon a stone table. The silence is so deep you hear the scratch of reed pens on wax, the uneasy breaths of scribes recording each word. Before you unfolds the true picture of Egypt, not in glory, but in worry carried from the distant borders. You hear the voice of a messenger just returned from the north. He kneels, sweat on his brow, his voice unsteady. The vassal cities of the Levant have sent many letters. The Hittites and the Mitanni fight for land. The cities once loyal to Egypt grow fearful. They say no answer comes from Pharaoh. Eyes shift around the chamber. Officials murmur, some anxious, some bewildered. For Egypt once stood as the pillar of the region, but now, with the king consumed by Aten and his new city, ties to allies weaken. You turn toward the south, to Nubia. A grizzled general rises, his voice heavy. The Nubians still send their gold, but small rebellions begin. They test if Egypt's strength endures. He pauses, searching Pharaoh's face. In Akhenaten's eyes, you see distance, not fear, but trust. Trust that Aten's light will protect his empire. Yet in this chamber the whispers of unease grow. The letters pile high, cries for help repeating, while ceremonies of Aten blaze on, while temples rise in Akhenaten, while the sun is praised as the only truth. You walk to the window and look out over the city. The avenues gleam white, the squares blaze with sunlight. But beyond, the caravans grow fewer. Ships from the north that once brought cedar, copper, and incense now come rarely. Allies doubt, enemies press, and Egypt drifts apart from the world it once commanded. You step into a secret council. On the table lie the letters of Byblos, of Tyre, of Canaan, filled with desperate pleas. Send soldiers, keep your promise, the enemy is at our gates. The words repeat, urgent, fearful. A scribe reads them aloud, his voice low, and the chamber sinks deeper in silence. Pharaoh sits with his hands resting still, eyes lifted again toward Aten. He believes the sun will guard the land, but in the faces of his officials you see doubt. They wish to march, to defend, to act, yet they cannot overrule the king who places his faith in light above all. Outside, soldiers whisper in the courtyards. They remember the days of Amenhotep III, when Egypt's power stretched wide and enemies bent low. Now his hands shake. He whispers as he reads, Byblos is desperate. The Hittites advance. They ask why Pharaoh sends no answer. He glances around as though the words themselves could bring danger. You sit beside him and feel his fear. He murmurs, does Aten hear this cry? Or does Aten shine only here, on this city? His question drifts into the silence, unanswered but echoing in your mind like the unease spreading across the empire. At night, Akhenaten lies still. You walk outside, stars glittering above. The sun is gone, only darkness and wind remain. You feel the loneliness of an empire once mighty,
now enclosed in faith yet cut off from allies and friends. You know this isolation is more than politics. It is spirit. For when Egypt chose Aten and turned from the old gods, it chose a path apart, alone against the world. You close your eyes, breathing slow, sensing the fragility of this moment. Faith can lift a nation, but it can also leave it stranded, isolated, forgotten beneath the brilliance it trusts too deeply. Chapter 11. The Royal Family and the Children. You are seated in a quiet chamber of the palace at Akhenaten. The light of Aten pours through high windows, laying a golden carpet across the stone floor. Outside you hear birds in the gardens, but within these walls another sound fills the air, the bright laughter of royal children. You see Pharaoh Akhenaten and Queen Nefertiti side by side. They wear no heavy cloaks. They do not sit upon a distant throne, but rest in a warm space like any family. Around them are the princesses of Amarna, hair tied neatly, eyes shining, faces radiant with innocence. They climb into their parents' laps, chatter with quick voices, and in that moment, Aten seems to give not only light to the world, but joy to this household. You follow the scene, feeling as though you have stepped into a living relief carved in stone. For these images too appear on the walls of Akhenaten, Aten's rays falling with tiny hands that offer the breath of life to each member of the royal family. No longer is Pharaoh shown as untouchable and severe. Here he is father, husband, human. You hear laughter as one small princess runs across the courtyard, her white linen dress fluttering in the breeze. Another reaches toward the sunlight spilling through the colonnade. She cries out with delight, "The light touched my hand!" You feel the sweetness of that moment, a happiness rare in the rigid halls of kings. Yet beneath the joy you sense fragility. For these children, though born in the light of Aten, grow in a time of turmoil. The girls run barefoot on grass, chasing each other, tossing soft balls of cloth, picking lotus flowers, blowing wooden flutes. Their laughter drifts on the wind, softening the weight of politics and ritual. Among the people of the city, whispers spread. Never before have they seen a pharaoh so close to his children, his family shown in simple love. Some call it strange, even irreverent, for they are used to kings carved only as gods of power. But others find warmth in it, for they see in Pharaoh not only a ruler, but a man like themselves, loving his wife and children. You return to the chamber and see Akhenaten holding a young daughter in his arms. She reaches to touch his crown, her eyes gleaming. He bends his head so her small hand brushes his hair. For an instant, he is no king bearing an empire's weight, but only a father, smiling at his child. The contrast strikes you. Outside, he is the one who defies old gods and shakes the pillars of tradition. But here, in the chamber of Aten's light, he is only a man in love with his family. You breathe slowly, letting the feeling rest in you. For you know these children of Amarna are the image of the new faith, innocent, tender, fragile, yet full of promise. They grow beneath Aten's glow, in the embrace of parents, within a city lifted from desert sand. And you, silent witness, sit among them, hearing laughter, seeing love, and sensing this truth. Even in storms of history, there are moments of warmth, shafts of gentle sunlight, and the laughter of children
strong enough to soften the darkness. Chapter 12. The Whispers of the People. You walk beyond the straight streets of Akhenaten, where Aten's light glows across whitewashed walls. Your heart still carries the warmth of children's laughter in the palace. But here, among the crowds, you begin to hear another sound. Lower, rougher. The whispers of the people. You drift into a night market. Oil lamps flicker in the desert wind, casting anxious shadows on weary faces. Sellers call out softly, not with the cheer of festival, but with voices hushed, as though afraid of their own words. You pause at a bread stall. The woman sets a flat loaf upon the table and sighs, her voice trembling. The sun shines above us, but the grain grows less each season. We pray, but does Aten hear? She glances quickly around, wary of ears too close. You move past potters feeding a kiln. One man mutters to his companion. A child clutches a wooden doll, wide-eyed as the parents speak. The father murmurs, "Our children grow, but will Aten guard them when harvests fail?" The mother nods slowly, her gaze distant. You sense in that moment faith and fear entwined in the same breath. You pass beneath the high walls of Akhenaten, where carvings show Pharaoh and Nefertiti bathed in Aten's rays. Yet at the base of those walls, people whisper as they walk. "Pharaoh loves Aten more than his people," says one. Another replies, "But the sun gives life to all, does it not?" The debate lingers, unresolved, flowing like an undercurrent beneath the city's brightness. In a narrow alley, you find an old man seated against the wall, his eyes clouded, his voice frail. "Amun sheltered me all my life," he whispers. "I saw the floods, the fields rich and green. Now I see no image, only blinding light. Will Aten remember the old ones like me?" His words fall like the sigh of an entire generation. You feel yourself caught between two worlds. One is Aten's brilliance, radiant and new. The other is the shadow of memory, where people still whisper the names of the old gods in their sleep. The wind itself carries their secret prayers, not shouted but hidden, rising into the night as though begging some forgotten god to listen. You close your eyes and let the sound fill you. The quiet cries, the sighs, the murmurs of longing all weave together into a strange music, half hope, half fear. And you know that within Aten's radiance these voices endure, moving through night markets, down narrow alleys, within the hearts of Egypt's people. You, the unseen witness, walk among them and hear every word. And you understand that light never erases shadow. It only pushes it back, leaving whispers alive in the dark. Reminders that the new faith has not yet silenced the roots that lie deep in the soul of the people. Chapter 13. Darkness falls over Amarna. You walk along the straight roads of Akhenaten, once filled with sunlight and songs to Aten. But today your footsteps echo strangely, for around you there is no longer music, no bustle, only silence broken by the desert wind rushing through empty columns. You feel it clearly. The city of light is slipping into shadow. You stop before a temple of Aten. The white walls remain, but the plaster cracks. The desert stains creep across each seam. The altars are bare, dust heavy upon them. No more crowds sing here, no harp music drifts. You step inside, your feet crunching upon sand blown across the floor.
You wander to the market. Where once there was noise and trade, now only a handful of stalls remain. The baskets of grain are empty, the jars of barley clutched tight as treasure. A woman cries aloud, her voice sharp. The sun shines above, but our bellies are empty. We cannot eat the light. Her words cut the air, yet no one answers. People bow their heads in silence, as though they too believe it but dare not say. In a narrow lane, a starving child sits, clutching his stomach, his wide eyes staring at you. A shaft of sun falls upon his face, but his gaze holds no joy, only hunger. You reach to comfort, yet you are only witness, unable to touch, unable to ease. The helplessness of the city seeps into you. You walk on to the barracks. The courtyard is silent, the training ground abandoned. A few soldiers linger, weary, their armor rusted. A general sits slumped against a wall, eyes fixed on the distant frontier. He whispers, "Once Egypt's army struck fear in all enemies. Now we have no grain to feed men, no spirit to march." His words break like a sigh of a fallen age. Back at the palace, silence reigns. Long halls echo with wind alone. Carvings of Aten's rays remain, but dust veils their glow, cracks splinter the stone. In the great hall the throne sits empty. No music, no servants, only emptiness stretching wide. You wander into neighborhoods, mud brick homes shuttered, some fallen, overtaken by weeds. Through one doorway you hear muffled sobs, a mother mourning a child, a wife mourning her husband. The sound mixes with the desert wind until the city itself weeps. You enter another temple of Aten, once blazing with festivals. You remember when thousands lifted their faces, when voices rose together. Now the altar is bare, lotus flowers withered, incense gone cold. A few figures kneel, but they do not call Aten. They whisper the names of Amun, of Osiris, of Isis. Their prayers cling to the old gods, fragile as children reaching for their mother. Their voices strike like knives into the silence, a sign that Aten's hold fades. You breathe deep, feeling the chill settle. The city of light is now a city of shadow, shadow of hunger, of sickness, of weakness. Amarna, born as Aten's dream, stands now as a silent tomb in the desert. Slowly you walk past broken walls, abandoned altars, empty streets. Each step echoes like a drum of mourning. You understand now even the brightest light fades when there is no strength to protect, leaving only darkness over Amarna. Chapter 14. Death and Forgetting. You are standing in a dark chamber of the palace at Amarna. No longer does the blazing light of Aten flood the room. Only a thin shaft of evening sun slips through a narrow window and falls upon the hollow face of a man lying on a low bed. It is Pharaoh Akhenaten, the king who once defied the old gods, who raised a city to honor Aten, now lies frail, his breath shallow, his eyes half closed as if already drifting into endless night. You hear soft footsteps, muffled sobs barely held back. Attendants line the walls, heads bowed. The air is heavy, pressing silence upon every heart. From far away, faint notes of funeral horns echo, long and mournful, each sound like a wound across the soul of those who listen. You see Queen Nefertiti at his side, her hand trembling as she clasps his cooling fingers. Her eyes hold grief and helplessness. The man who once stood beside her in radiant light,
who once lifted his arms to receive Aten's blessing, now is only a fading body. She leans close, whispering words no one else can hear, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a promise. You step closer and gaze at Akhenaten's face. The features already carved strangely in art are now marked by deep lines of suffering. His lips are dry, his skin ashen. His eyes open once more, not to his wife, not to his courtiers, but toward the window, where the last rays of Aten fall. In that fading glow he seeks his god. His lips move, weak as dust. Aten, are you still there? The words drift like the faintest wind, fragile as a final breath. No voice answers, no sign descends. Only the light dimming as the sun slips behind desert hills. Then his breath ceases. His chest falls still. Silence swallows the chamber, broken only by the distant wail of horns, slow and sorrowful. In that moment you feel not only the death of a man, but the death of a dream. You walk outside. Amarna lies hushed. No chants to Aten rise, no music fills the squares. Instead, in the shadows, you hear again the whispers of old names: Amun, Isis, Osiris. The people believe Aten has abandoned their king, that he was not saved, and they turn back to the gods they once knew. You pass through streets now heavy with dust. The temples of Aten stand bare, altars empty, carvings crumbling. The images of Akhenaten and Nefertiti, a path that led Egypt into chaos. You hear voices outside the walls. Amun has returned, someone whispers. Another answers, Aten was only a passing dream. The Pharaoh is gone, but Egypt must live. Such words spread quickly, drowning the last echo of Aten's light. You walk again through the city. Sunset colors the walls not in brilliance, but in ash. You understand this truth. With Akhenaten's final breath, Amarna itself begins to die. The city will be abandoned, left to sand and silence. You breathe in the chill. History is merciless. A man may challenge gods, raise a city from dust, but still die alone, forsaken by the very God he worshipped. And you, unseen witness, have stood in that room, felt that silence, and seen the moment when a king, a dream, and an age together sank into forgetting. Chapter 15. The Revenge of the Gods. You stand on a rise of sand looking down at the city of Amarna. Before your eyes lies not the radiant capital it once was, but a silence heavy as stone. The white walls of Aten's temples are cracked and stained with dust. The straight roads lie empty. From the distance comes the sound of horses' hooves, of soldiers shouting, of priests chanting. They are not Aten's faithful. They are the servants of Amun, the old gods returned, come with one purpose, to erase every trace of Akhenaten and the god he exalted. You watch them enter the central square. The temple of Aten still stands, but its altars are bare, its steps thick with sand. A priest of Amun raises his voice. This was never a house of God. This was the folly of a man. He signals, and the hammers fall. Blow after blow strikes the stone. Reliefs of Aten shatter, carved rays splinter, dust fills the air. The hands of Aten that once reached down to bless are struck into rubble. Soldiers smash walls, and each strike rings like thunder. You see one man pause before a carving of Akhenaten with Nefertiti and their daughters beneath Aten's light. For a moment his hand lingers, as if moved by the tenderness of the scene. Then, at command, he lifts his hammer and brings it down. The stone breaks, fragments scatter. The family's faces fall into pieces on the ground. Through the dust you feel a cry, a sigh of pain from the walls themselves, as though the dream carved here is weeping as it dies. You walk streets once filled with children's laughter. Now the homes are abandoned, roofs fallen, weeds breaking through cracks. Soldiers set torches to the empty quarters, flames rising high, smoke curling into the sky. The people have already been moved back to Thebes, where Amun reigns once more, and the people rejoice as though nothing had ever been taken from them. In the marketplace, you hear the whispers. The heretic Pharaoh is dead. Aten abandoned him. Amun gives us grain again. Their voices spread, filling every corner. Offerings pile high in the temples of the old gods. Incense burns thick, and the memory of Aten fades into ash. You return years later to Amarna. The city lies half buried beneath sand. The walls lie broken, reliefs fractured, streets silent. No children rung here, no priests sing. Only the wind whistles through hollow halls. You enter a ruined temple. The carvings of Aten's rays are hacked away. But if you look closely, faint lines still remain. You touch the stone. It is rough, scarred, cold. Yet beneath the ruin a trace survives. Aten has not vanished completely. Aten has sunk into shadow. Waiting is a mystery for those who come after. The wind carries faint echoes of voices long gone. The songs to Aten that once rose with joy, now drifting like ghosts. You feel the truth. Aten has not died. Aten has been buried. The old gods have taken vengeance, reclaiming their throne. But the dream lingers as a secret beneath the sand. You walk away at last, looking back one final time. The city of Amarna sinks behind curtains of desert dust. In your heart there is sorrow, but also wonder. For the revenge of the gods is not only in shattered stone and broken temples, not only in the return of Amun's might. It is also in memory itself. The people choose to forget. They choose the old gods again. Yet, under the silence, the questions remain. Was Aten truly only a mistake? Or was he a glimpse of something beyond? And you, the unseen witness, depart in silence. You have seen birth, brilliance, and ruin. Now you have seen the vengeance of the gods, the erasure of Aten, the fall of Amarna, leaving behind only mystery, waiting for time to uncover. Ending, fragility, and echoes. You sit now in the gentle quiet of your own room, breathing slowly as the story closes. The journey with Akhenaten has ended. You have seen a king daring to challenge centuries of tradition, raising a new faith, building a city from the desert. And you have seen it all collapse into silence and ruin. You feel it clearly. Human power, no matter how radiant, is fragile before the current of history. A pharaoh may defy gods, may shape the sands into temples, but when belief turns into isolation, all dissolves like dust in the desert wind. And if these travels through the shadows of the past brought you peace tonight, do not forget to subscribe, so we may walk together again in the journeys yet to come.